Hello, gentle people. Welcome back to another episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast.
Where it is, in fact, not always dark.
I'm Kieran.
And I'm Erin.
And today we coronate the first Scottish Queen since Lizzie decided her cousin Mary was going to get the pork chop in another classic battle of the Brits.
For those of you who haven't listened to the podcast before, welcome. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for new weekly content and join in the celebration, coronation, manifestation, post-COVID vacation that we've all been dreaming of.
That was fabulous. I love listening to that much rhyming in a row. You're a poet and you do know it.
I do. She's a mammoth.
Today we are here to talk about the second half of the second season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK.
Whoop.
What a time it's been.
I've been so invested. I understand like sports culture now. I'm like people that like really go to the pub and watch the rugby. Like I'm ready for the next series of Drag Race where we can go to a gay bar and
it's gonna feel
shout
very
at the telly.
Intense. Yeah, I want to shout at the TV. Like I feel like with certain results that come out, sometimes you do have like the visceral reaction of, oh my god, I didn't expect that. Mm-hmm. And to be surrounded by people that have the same results, that's something I'm looking forward to.
And to start fights with people who don't agree with me.
Not the fights. We are the least confrontational or aggressive people that I know, so I don't see that for us at all.
I could imagine just like someone trying to start on us and us being like, thank you, okay, bye.
Thank you, but no. Moving on with our life. So, I mean, we're going to start off from where we left off. If you haven't listened already, we covered the first half of the season in a very fun, like, long podcast episode that was meant to be a short one. But, you know, we like to talk, so listen to it if you haven't already. We are chatty. It's not always chatty.
It is always chatty.
It is always chatty.
In fact,
So, I mean, we cannot talk about the return to the second half of the season without Bimini just murdering the competition, really. Out of the 5 weeks returning, 4 weeks she won the challenge. Fair, one of them was a shared win with the other United King dolls, but
I mean, that was a deserved
Bimini was
win.
the standout. If there was one person in that group that should have won the challenge overall, I think it was Bimini.
But that is so like one thing I want to say when we come back here. So like I kind of slated UK Hun as a song in the last podcast. I want to retract that statement.
Renounce your ways.
It was a grower. Now Obsessed
Not sure.
Is the new national anthem confirmed.
Really?
Yeah.
I really think it could be something they could put forward to Eurovision, and the result of which could be fruitful for the country. So if they want to get a win, maybe
everything, because that's like pretty much one of the most popular songs on TikTok at the moment.
Honestly, I mean, you were telling before that even your brother, who is not in on the culture, came to you with the song and was like, "This, look at this. What is this?" Yeah,
it made it onto like straight TikTok For You page, like so hard. Yeah, so this is me withdrawing my statement about UK Hun officially. I am now obsessed.
Yeah, thank you.
Apologies to all the offence that I caused.
Yeah, you know, it really did cause a bit of a rift between us. We didn't talk for a few weeks.
Yeah.
The podcast was on the brink of collapsing, but we did come to a conclusion that you liked the song, and here we are, continuing on.
Yeah, I'm so embarrassed, but you know, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has mistakes.
Like that's... everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. Yeah. So I think that the thing with UK Hun is I felt the same way when I first heard it. It was one of those songs that I just needed just a little second longer. I needed a bit more to listen to it for it to like soak into my psyche and become something I was obsessed with. And I think that's what it's done for both of us. So good for that.
It's become a household staple. I love it. I love it so much.
Moving on from our lovely performance of UK Hun, we go straight into one of the most anticipated challenges every single season because everyone loves a celebrity impersonation. And of course, we're talking about none other than the Snatch Game.
Of course, which is, of course, then a play on the match game where the queens pick a celebrity. It's the one episode that they know is going to come up every season that they can prepare for. They prepare a celebrity impersonation. They have to answer questions trying to match to the celebrity guest. It's always a very telling episode about...
It definitely separates the princesses from the queens, is what I think they always say. Where if you can perform at a high level, you will be able to stand out well in the Snatch Game, and if not, you will buckle under the pressure because it just seems so intense.
I think also, I don't even know if it's necessarily about the skill of Snatch Game as much anymore, because or that's like level 1, having the improv skills and whatever to do Snatch Game, having your impression, knowing the celebrity inside out, and having the catchphrases down is step 1. Step 2 is now, because Snatch Game has such an air about it, it has so much, I can't find the word that I mean. Like, it's so famous in itself as an episode.
Oh, it's like prestigious.
Prestigious, that's it. It's like, it's so prestigious that level 2 is then not psyching yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Or not being overwhelmed.
That seems like the hardest part.
By the fact that you're doing Snatch Game, yeah.
Going into it, you could definitely tell that the mindset that Bimini kept herself in for the competition coming back. You know, she even said it, the PMA to Lawrence Chaney, who then responded, "Get fucked."
Yeah.
Love that. So funny. Such a
Summarising
Scottish
so
response.
much. Yeah.
But her positive mental attitude really going into the Snatch Game is what made her so funny and so likable, is that you could tell she wasn't in her head about it.
So she did Katie Price. And was hysterical. So
funny. Honestly, I think it's one of my favourite Snatch Game performances ever. Just because it really resonates with, like, we've seen Katie Price on TV. We know that there's a lot of personality there, and she gets herself into these situations that it's just not something that comes up for most people, you know?
Yeah.
That whole tangent about the implants being held hostage in South Africa. I felt that one deep in my soul.
It was just knowing the references, performing it casually. It wasn't like, she wasn't, I think something that bothers me in Snatch Game is when queens are like absolutely gasping for attention.
Yeah.
And then the attention gets on them and they realise that they haven't thought of anything to say. They've just been trying so hard to get attention that they've not got a joke. Whereas like the way that Bimini played it was like she was just in the character. Yeah. And when the moment felt right, she spoke as the character and it worked. And it was so funny. And I think we had some, like, a lot of mediocre performances in this year's Snatch Game, and then some just
there was
like
some middle of the road jobs,
like some that were like not awful, but not when you're putting them next to Bimini.
Yeah, but okay, if we're going by that standard, there's a reason one of them's the winner. You know, I think even being safe in Snatch Game is an accomplishment in and of itself, because it shows that you are capable of comedy. You're capable of, you know, that back and forth, hitting the ball back over to Ru, who's going to hit you with another volley. Like, that's really important, that I think you're even able to be safe in an episode like that. So as much as, middle of the road, maybe not as strong of a performance as Bimini isn't like something to be like, oh, round of applause, it's still a huge success in my eyes.
I think it's also harder with the UK one because Ru doesn't necessarily know the characters that
all
are
the people
being portrayed. So there's like a sort of like, not a language barrier, but an Atlantic barrier. A transatlantic barrier.
I do think that's why when you go for these characters, sometimes you just need to kind of get the idea across, which is why I thought Sister chose really smart to go with just a classic psychic. Because Psychic Sally, pretty famous in the UK, however, Ru's not going to know that person, so you just have to really play into the psychic part, which is something that she can understand generally. Yeah. And I thought, I will say, I think Sister, to me, although she didn't really seem as though she was that funny in the other improv challenge they had for the first half of the season, the Good Morning Show.
That was a dark time.
I mean, yeah, it was a dark time for her. But I'd say that following from that, she has, like, I mean, she won the reading challenge. I thought she was quite funny. It's clear that she's not like she's there for a reason. I just think that maybe the challenges that could have highlighted her best maybe didn't come up
while she was there.
Yeah, while she was there, which that's just the way the cards are dealt. So good for her though. She was able to be safe. Overall, the bottoms for that week happened to be Tia Coffee, who following I think it was just she came down that runway again in another outfit that wasn't stunning.
Yeah, I think that's
that pterodactyl with the arms that stopped her from
it
moving.
Was just so much. I want to say it was so much, but it was actually so little. With the intention of being so much. I think in her head she'd really gone out there with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the issue lies.
And then Lawrence Chaney landed in the bottom for Snatch Game with her performance as Miriam Margolyes, who, she is a very funny lady to watch, but I do think that Lawrence kind of gave herself a hard gig. She was because if you're playing someone who's really smart and relies on long-winded responses to make a really funny point, I think it's just a bit difficult to get that across when Snatch Game I think is meant to be quite punchy, to the point, lighthearted, have fun with it. I think that Lawrence would have been so good as Isa from Still Game. It broke my heart to find out that wasn't who she was performing as, because she gives off that energy.
I think it was just so it was difficult to watch, because I think we've all been in that situation where you kind of thought you had something good and you thought you were prepared, and then the first step doesn't go necessarily as you planned, and it really knocks your confidence for the rest of it. And I think that was just a really unfortunate situation for Lawrence, where I think she had expectations of herself that when the first joke didn't land the way she wanted it to, that sort of triggered a negative thought spiral. And I think that's something we've seen with her throughout the competition.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's something that definitely seemed to follow her upon the return from the COVID break, because she'd obviously been the front runner before that point, and then they had to, a 7-month break in between you winning 2 challenges. Of course, you're going to feel a bit uncertain about yourself, and to immediately come back and, after getting your 3rd win, being told, but you're now in the bottom, it probably put her head in a complete spiral. And I feel for the girl there, because that would have been a lot to pull yourself through. But she did it. She did do it.
She did. She really did.
So moving on from the Snatch Game, we move on. That week, Tia Coffee went home. Lovely gal, really funny. She just, I think it's the look side of things that the judges weren't going to give her a pass if she didn't turn anything out on the runway that was less than perfect.
Yeah, I think it's one of those,
the hard part.
You'd like to go to it, I'd like to see Tia Coffee, do a show or whatever.
Of course.
But it just wasn't Drag Race. It's not.
It's not the standard I think Drag Race are expecting of their contestants anymore, which is the unfortunate part. But I will say, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode, I think it's really commendable that Tia Coffee joins the likes of Vinegar Strokes in wanting to be black camp queens who aren't trying to give fashion. This is something they seem to be pushing for, because so often the black queens have the expectations of being fierce and turning out looks and having their hair perfect and all this stuff, and they're saying, but we would rather just actually be funny and entertaining campy queens. And good for them. I think it is something that needs to be discussed, that there are expectations, especially on black contestants, to be this, that and everything.
I definitely hadn't thought of that. It's true. It's true.
I listened to a podcast where Vinegar was talking to Mono Agapian, Drag Her. If you don't listen to it, it's an amazing Drag Race related podcast where you'll very often hear guests from the show come on and talk about their experiences. So Vinegar, she was really saying that that's something that they've been pushing for, because so often it is just a case of, oh, but you must be you must tick all these boxes as a black queen to be considered worthy in the eyes of the Drag Race fans, which I think that's just, I hate these entertainers feeling like they need to be worthy to anyone.
I hate anyone in general having to feel like they have to meet a specific standard.
Precisely. It's not fair that, it's hard enough. We all just have to exist on the planet. To have to meet other people's expectations, not worth it. The only expectations in my eyes that matter to me are mine and maybe family.
Yeah.
Maybe some friends. You know, keep your close ones as the people that you want to impress and meet expectations for. Either way. We move on to the design challenge.
Yeah.
This was a nice one. You know, I think the performances shown by everyone was pretty decent, except for obviously the bottom.
I've actually forgotten what it was. Can you like?
It's a very memorable episode for you. So for Sister, she ended up in the bottom with this like flower. She looked like Fifi in the flower pots.
Oh my god! Oh yeah, it's all come flooding back to me now.
But just a lot of fabric like in the way, and she had like a frame with a flower on it. It was a lot.
If there was like so Sister got to decide. She got first grab at the
she won the reading challenge, so they gave her like an extra 15 seconds to pick. It felt longer than 15 seconds is what I would say.
Yeah, there was definitely more than 15 seconds of footage of her just gathering everything and then not sharing it with other people, which is how you play the game.
It is, and no one can critique that.
And she wore so much of it. It was all...
She did. I think
it was all very much there.
I would have just taken it and then not used it. Like, if you don't want other people to have it, that's okay. You're playing the game. But do you need to put everything that you grabbed in the 15 seconds onto your outfit? No. I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a contestant on Drag Race, so what do I know?
True.
Moving on from that, we had Sister, and then also Tase and that Brillo pad look.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So
honestly, I will say, compared to like what Bag of Chips brought down the runway last season, should have been the bottom for that, and she knows she should have. That was an awful look. But Tase's outfit, from at least like from the shoulders to like the mid torso, I thought looked okay.
Yeah.
Did it look like the winner? No. But she clearly had like a concept in mind with that like really short, like Liza Minnelli wig. Mm-hmm. I really like very that short wig. Pixie cut. Mm-hmm. I think Tase looks amazing in any hair, so she doesn't have a problem.
I think she's just stunning.
Yeah.
But like even stunning wasn't really serving like pulled out Brillo pads.
No.
I think it would have looked quite cute as like a crop top with like bell-bottom jeans. I know that they can't just wear jeans. Okay. But that's how I would have worn it if I was to wear wire wool. It must have been so scratchy. Like,
yeah, I mean, she cut herself a few times, is what I think she said. But you
I know,
but
no then to lip sync in it and have like scratchy.
And she still survived.
She
still survived the lip sync, so good for Tase. You know, she stayed to the next week. A horror one for the week with her.
Good for her.
Lovely reveal moment with those sleeves that she looked like some form of a dinosaur that shoots its.
Like she shrugged her shoulders and like the fan, like shoulder impact sleeve thing, like popped up when she did her shoulders. Yeah. It was so cool. It was very like they said that she rehearsed it beforehand, and you can tell that she did because it just came across so polished in the moment, and it's one of the better looking design pieces, you know, from scratch that we've ever seen on Drag Race, in my opinion. Yeah, and it meant a lot to her as well because she was a design student, and the fact that she didn't win the first one, I think, knocked her confidence a bit.
Yeah. So, you know, moving on from that, we go into the top 5, and from the get-go, we are already dealing with a bit of drama.
Yeah, so it was stand-up week where all the queens have to do a little, like, 2 or 3 minute
stand-up comedy. Yeah, a little set about love and relationships in their life and how it went for them. Ellie Diamond, she won, like, the mini challenge. It was like singing to one of RuPaul's songs and like a rock look. Yeah. And
honestly, Tase in that, I know, like, I'm obsessed, but like Tase really can do anything.
I really found Lawrence Chaney funny in that one because she was given the Beastenders performance that we saw a couple episodes later, but just a bit sooner.
That was just like the precursor.
Yeah, just a little bit of a teaser. So Ellie Diamond won the challenge, and as a result of which was able to decide the running order for the stand-up comedy. Now, I think I've heard almost every single side of the story about this fucking running order that was so important that it had been brought up 3 episodes in a row. 3 3 episodes over something that, in my eyes, on US Drag Race wouldn't have been more than a 2-second clip, you know?
No, because it wasn't a big deal. It's not a big deal.
It really wasn't. But I think what had happened was, as soon as it'd been like announced that Ellie was picking the running order, the queens had all discussed to each other about how it should go, and I think Bimini and Lawrence had both said that they were pretty happy with like starting and ending the show.
Yeah, but that's
and leaving the rest in the middle.
Generally, like the rule of making like a running order or like a set is like you make a shit sandwich. Like you start well and you end well, and then you just sort of try and have peaks and troughs throughout it. Like that's just generally how you run a show. I mean, obviously you want everything to be good, but
but yeah, the shit sandwich is a good formula.
You kind of have like your safe bets, topping and tailing, and
so I can see why from that point they would be upset about the overall presentation wouldn't be as strong as it could have been. However, there is no rule in Drag Race that says that you have to listen to everyone else's opinion. She sat herself up and she got to stay. She won the mini challenge. She gets to decide, and you know, it didn't get her a badge. That's okay. She still got to stay to the top 4.
Yeah, but I feel like that was like for someone like Ellie, like just not bombing that challenge was a success.
Her stand-up comedy routine,
it was really
I felt
quite fine.
Yeah, I think it was very much, she didn't really know why it was funny at points, but because she was so committed to just going forward with the performance, I think that's really what the judges responded to.
That's also like really commendable as well. Like
it is. I think that I've had a real full circle experience with Ellie Diamond as we've gone through the show. She walked in, I thought she looked amazing, and I really had high expectations. Then I think they kind of dwindled a bit just because everyone else was really coming to prove themselves as well. And she still did good, but I think toward the end it sort of made it feel like, oh, maybe Ellie should have gone already. But then she stuck around to this last finale episode and got to show more. And I think that in a couple of years' time, she's probably going to be quite intimidating to be up against.
Yeah, I think once like the sense of self and the confidence is really solidified, she's going to be like a total force to be reckoned with.
Totally. And what can be said other than her makeup has been perfect every week? She has such an ability with making her face look so clean, precise, and she's very impactful, I think, on what drag makeup will be like veering toward now on the UK.
Yeah.
Because you know what it does? When you get like a makeup queen that comes onto the show and shows that they know how to paint a face, it really sets forth, you know, like Roxy Andrews, when she went on the show, the seasons following that, everyone was doing what Roxy was doing because she really had established herself as a strong mug. And so I just think that's what Ellie's encouraged and following on from people like Blue Hydrangea. Yeah,
so the rest of that episode was basically like Lawrence was unhappy and felt very betrayed and was very dramatic. I think it's okay to have that initial upset because it's not the order you wanted, but Lawrence and Ahura really like took it personally.
They held on to it.
Which then went on to Ahura's detriment because I think that negativity just like sort of plagued her, and she ended up leaving us at the end of that episode, which I think was a surprise to a lot of people because we were kind of expecting to have her in the final. At least I was anyway.
Yeah, I think from what Ahura has said as well, she was the only one that I think had to do her stand-up routine twice because the first time her microphone had failed. So she was a bit nervy on the version that we saw because that was the second time she had to perform it.
Well, we never really got to see that much of hers as well because a lot of it got... because it's
censored
BBC, it got censored.
Because of her nan.
Yeah.
Well, it was because the BBC contacts people that are discussed about on television, like in the family tree. Like if I was to go on TV right now and talk about my nana, they would also contact my nana and be like, are you okay with being mentioned on this? Because they're just getting the rights and they're covering their asses. And Ahura's gran didn't want to be... she didn't want to be associated with having a gaping behind, so... understandably they decided to bleep that, and I think that just took away a bit more from the performance. But yeah, Ahura ends up going home that episode after lip syncing against Tase, who Tase at this point is going to star in a Heinz Bean commercial after the amount of promotional work she's done.
Yeah, well, she got some hashtag gifted.
Personalised.
Yeah.
So following this episode, we move into Beastenders, which is
this was so funny.
A lovely combination of Alyssa Edwards' Beast followed up with the EastEnders. I loved this challenge, and I think that it made sense why everyone got to stay in the end, because as a whole it was very well presented.
I think a lot of these acting challenges can sometimes fall kind of flat, but
it's quite easy to do.
This was one that everyone sort of brought it to a good enough level that it was actually just like, it was easy to watch and it was funny.
Yeah, I agree completely. So no one ends up going home this episode, as we end up having a double save. I don't know if it was really intended on being like a, oh, Shantae, you both stay moment, but it was more of a, you're here, we're going to do a top four. That's how it came across to me. But we got another fun lip sync out of it, where both of the girls did a great job, those girls being Ellie Diamond and Tase. Moving on, we get to the finale, and a lot goes on in this episode. We start off, they come back into the workroom. Lawrence is happy for Ellie staying, and I think this is something that really needed to happen.
Yeah, there was a lot of negativity sort of dragged between, like, from the comedy episode. There was I found it difficult to watch because there was a lot of like kind of making up, like having that sort of superficial conversation where it was like, like, we're over it now, whatever, and then like literally 2 seconds later trying to
brought back up
like
again.
It's not even that, it's just like an offhanded comment, but not enough time had passed yet for it to be like something that they joked about. So like them having this conversation in the finale felt a bit more genuine, and like the anger had sort of dissipated. Yeah,
which, we'll never know what the relationship between these two queens is like. Ellie's one of the first people she ever messaged on Instagram was Lawrence. So it's clear they go back, and that this was something that needed to happen for both of their sakes. Because I think it was also something where you were able to see Lawrence and go, okay, you don't hate this girl. You clearly were just in your feelings about a decision that she'd made.
Yeah,
which we've all been there. We've all been in our feels.
It is difficult because I think the way Lawrence has come across in the last couple of episodes hasn't been the most favourable. And it's not like, oh, it was a bad edit, or even, oh, she's a bad person. It's just like when people get insecure and when people get kind of overwhelmed, they don't you're not at your best, and I don't think Lawrence Chaney was at their best.
I wouldn't say so either.
Mentally.
I think she showed really strong performances. However, it didn't really, I found it kind of hard to root for Lawrence just on the second half, because it seemed as though the insecurity had really taken over and allowed her to like kind of lash out a bit.
Yeah, that's what it was, because it wasn't
close with her.
It was difficult to feel empathy or like sympathetic towards her, just because of the way that it was coming out of her. Like it wasn't as you say, like she was sort of lashing out rather than kind of dealing with the fact that she was kind of feeling like she wasn't living up to her own standards, and that was difficult for her. And it would be difficult for anyone, but the way that it was handled and the way that it came out made it difficult to be a supporter of her towards the end of the season.
Which, I think that's why, getting into this finale episode and seeing her apologising and just coming to terms with the fact that she'd had like a rough go of it.
Yeah.
I think that was it's a good thing to see. It humanises her, and it reminds us that regardless of what the outcome was, that Lawrence was still the queen that we had loved in the first half of the season when she was performing at her peak. A
super funny, like really talented. It's I think when you have someone that is that funny and also very beautiful, that doesn't necessarily always happen. And that's something that's quite unique to Lawrence Chaney, and that's cool.
Of course. So going on to the finale itself, in the classic tradition of the RuPaul finale, they're doing a performance to one of RuPaul's songs with their own verse added on about self-love. And I'd say that this was a really good performance. I thought the mixing was a little bit homophobic because you couldn't really hear them very well. Homophobic, not literally, just in the sense where...
Did you see me just like, I was like, get it.
Sorry. In this sense, when I'm saying homophobic, it's just rude. So, they get through the performance. I thought Tase looked insane. She performed the house down.
I loved the wig. Yeah.
Oh, it was so nice. And then Bimini, I thought, was such a standout because she chose blonde hair when everyone else was in a red, pink wig.
It was like a
really
red pink
gorgeous
theme, which I'm really here for a red pink moment at the moment.
Also, we need to talk about the fact that, like, with no warning, all the queens come out in like a performance outfit as well to join in the routine.
Like, so all the queens that had been sent home came back in, and it was lovely to see Miss Veronica Green come back in. It was
great to see her after. She looked very skinny is what I saw. And like, not to comment on her weight, I remember on the show she was already like a very slim figure. But she came back and I thought her face just looked so sharp in a good way. Like, she just looked really, really good. And I thought it was really funny because someone asked her about the outfit she chose, because everyone else was in like a classic red and pink, and she was in like a skin tone like bodysuit with like light blush pink and red adornments on it. So she met the runway of red and pink. However, she chose to stand out from everyone, and your eyes do go to the one person dressed differently. So she's not dumb. Pretty smart choice.
Smart lady, yeah.
And we get to see her again on season 3, which allegedly is finished filming already.
That's incredible.
It really is.
That's so funny.
So we've gone through performance.
Performance, like Bimini. I just wanted to like make a comment because I really enjoyed Ellie's costume for the performance with the feather boa sleeves. I thought she has thought about the movement of this outfit, how it's gonna look when she dances. I was like, I
love the hair.
And the hair, like, I thought that was a very well put together outfit that had been thought of for the occasion of dance, and I enjoyed it very much.
Very good. And Lawrence, although not giving like a strong dance routine, I thought was still at least able to give the character on stage, which is what the judges loved from her.
And had thought about it.
So then we move on to the finale runway. There was a brief moment in Untucked where the queens just talk about seeing each other again, and of course they acknowledge it's nice to see Veronica alive and well, which, I mean, going into it, they didn't know how she would have been doing, so this is right at the end. To see Veronica come back is great. We get into the finale looks, starting with Bimini, who comes down in like this corset made out of like white lace. It's very bridal. She has like a short blonde hairdo with some spiky bits at the top.
A bustle.
It looked amazing.
It was
very, very punk rock-esque.
I think that's my favourite part of the Bimini aesthetic, is the sort of punk nature of it all. That
roughness. Yeah, the grittiness that she has to her pretty aesthetic is really is like, something eye-catching. It's
very she's just very enjoyable to look at. Like, and you know that she cares and has thought about it, and that almost makes it more enjoyable, because you're like, oh, I feel like I just really enjoyed it. I really like Bimini. I thought she's done so well throughout this whole, like, through the second half of this competition.
Insanely well.
Really, I think she's gonna do bits after this. She's gonna.
Oh, of course.
Won the heart of the nation.
Oh yeah. Following on from Bimini, we go to none other than Ellie Diamond, who walked down in the biggest hoop skirt that she had Glinda. Glinda, it was a really gorgeous outfit. She had a really great moment where she was able to like spin the hoop skirt and like drop down. Where she sat
down like a princess.
So like, I think that was one of those moments where you are glad that she made it to the finale so she could have done that.
Yeah, I think the moments that Ellie Diamond is her absolute best is when you see her like fully realize an idea, because she's very intelligent. As much as she's it's like a running joke that she's a bit like
they say stupid.
A bit of an airhead.
They call her stupid. Yeah, they do that for comedy purposes, yeah.
But in terms of when it comes to like her drag and putting together a look, there's so much detail and thought that goes into what she does, that like her
she's fully realized
coming as that Glinda reference and then that following through into her like notes to her younger self, where it's like
so
her relationship
sweet.
with the Wizard of Oz as a film, and it's like
I thought that was actually very, very touching when she made that comment, because I've never really thought about the Wizard of Oz in the same way that she did, where that message of, it's like it's been there all along, that happiness that Dorothy wanted was there the whole time, and I think it's really something that speaks to who she is as a person. You can see where she's able to keep going and keep pushing on, and I think it's really commendable, because at 21 I didn't feel that way. I could never in a million years. Well, you were 21
3 weeks ago.
No, but when I was at her age, you know, and still am around her age, I could not see myself having the amount of confidence that she's put out there, and she's done amazing.
Stunning.
So I think it was the comment that Tase had made about her being so visually put together while Tase is still figuring that out. But Tase has the rest, you know. You can't always be the full package at an early age. And I think that Ellie Diamond has more than shown that she's capable of being so much more.
She's going to be an absolute
congratulations
powerhouse.
to her.
She already is,
of course.
But the only way is up.
Then we move on to Lawrence Chaney, who comes down in this stunning, like, it's a reference to Drag Race itself. She's a racer. She's wearing this beautiful purple and black color combo.
Yeah, the wig was really nice. The purple and black wig.
The repeater badges are earrings and a badge on the dress, because, you know, she just wants to remind everyone that she has won 3 challenges this season. I mean, he did win 4, but, you know. She looked insane, though. I loved the hair choice. I thought this was maybe one of my favorite outfits she'd worn, following from maybe her, like, Monster Mash outfit, which to me is her standout look from the season.
Her shapeliness.
Yeah, she knows her figure. And she said, I think that's something she said in the interview with Rue Michelle. She knows how to create that silhouette, and it transforms how she sees herself too.
Yeah.
And I completely get it, because that whole hourglass aesthetic that she ends up making looks so good.
And that's something I really enjoy, is like her being a big queen and a funny queen is something that is often used, I'm going to say as an excuse, but I don't mean it as like as brashly as that. I just can't word it better. But like, it's used as sort of like a placeholder for bigger comedy queens not making that effort with the silhouette or with the beauty aspect of it. And sure, like some people it's just not for them. And they're not here to be like a pretty queen, or like not pretty, but like they don't want to do the full woman aesthetic.
I think the point that you're getting at is that certain times on the show we've seen bigger queens complain about not being able to look as pretty as a smaller queen.
That's what I mean.
However, Lawrence Chaney is standing as a clear example as to why that is not the case. It is just, you need to know what works for you. And I think the problem will always be that, you know, we do live in a society where this, like, if you're like a skinny gal, if you're just a skinny person in general, more things look appealing on you because your body's not testing the silhouette, you know? The silhouette is one shape, and you're building on that, and anything can look nice on a nice enough silhouette, if you get me. I think with Lawrence Chaney, the thing that makes her so different than other queens we've seen on the show is that as a big girl, she's not just giving like a floor-length gown each episode in a different colour. She has different aesthetic choices, she has different silhouettes, she chooses new approaches to her looks all the time, and I think that's what really stood out about her, was that I can't really say that other than just the shape itself, there was anything that Lawrence presented that looked the same as what she'd already done.
Yeah.
And that's a winner, of course. Lastly, on the runway for the finale look, we have Tase, who I wouldn't say this is my favourite thing Tase has ever shown, but it still was very pretty. She was, classic Tase, hair down to the bottom of her thighs. This lovely, like, black feather moment on a bodysuit with some adornments on it. It did look nice.
It was really
I
pretty.
just don't know if it read as finale for me compared to the other three.
But then I think it was maybe Alan Carr that said, this isn't, or maybe it was Michelle. I think they all said variations of the same thing where they were like, this isn't necessarily like the most elevated or whatever, but
it looks amazing.
But for Tase, if that's how she felt her best finale fantasy, like if that because you could tell that Tase felt stunning, and she did look good.
Stunning.
She looked stunning too, but when you compare it to like what Ellie was wearing, you could see
there's different levels.
There was levels to it, but Tase was feeling her vibe.
And you know what? For her, she the decision made after that was for the top 3 to lip sync, and Tase was in the top 3.
Yeah,
I think that I think the only reason Ellie didn't make it was the lack of a badge, and that's very fair. She also took up 3/4 of the stage.
Yeah,
in
like
her
the practicality of her trying to lip sync in that outfit. But we also found out that Tase's dad was the bassist.
Oh my
in Wham!
God. Which
I just had to pause the telly and go and tell everyone in the house. Because
it really shook me. I was really sitting there going, wow, like, Wham? Oh, just a descendant of Wham?
Just a casual Wham.
Tase is now part of the Wham fantasy for me. I want to see Tase lip sync to every Wham song, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we get to this finale lip sync to Elton John's I'm Still Standing. I really have to say that it's something that I think really confused me about the way that the episode was decided in the end was just how much of Bimini we were shown in this lip sync and how much heart she seemed to put in this performance. The way that she threw herself around, and not in like, when someone throws themselves around in desperation, that's not what Bimini did for me. This was passion.
Yeah, something that I think I say all the time to myself when I'm watching Drag Race is like, when these girls like do the jumps that they throw themselves at the floor in all types of ways, you can tell that in their head it looks really epic, and then in reality
it doesn't always read that way.
It doesn't read that way. And I can say that because I do weekly dance classes, and every week I think that I fully believe that I am the coolest, most hippest hip hop I think I'm so cool, like living my commercial dance fantasy. And then I watch it back and I'm like, oh, that doesn't read how I thought it was reading. So like, I get it. But Bimini slayed that lip sync.
Yes, she did.
So
Tase she seemed a bit more reserved. I think we briefly spoke about this beforehand, the childhood photos where Tase's reaction and how she spoke about her childhood, she wasn't getting emotional because I don't think Tase thought she was winning, and I don't think that under any circumstance she could have won. And that's not because Tase isn't amazing, it's just 4 lip syncs already. And you have to come back to the realistic side of they're not just going to crown someone for having a really great performance. I think that this lip sync was so good. I did feel
fun.
I felt a bit confused just because of the lack of Lawrence Chaney in it for the result to be what it was. But with that being said,
but then they spent like some of it also panning to like they had all the other girls come back out and dance as well, and
it was lovely.
It was. I felt very like it did make me a bit emotional actually, because I was just like, oh, because this has been something that has been on pretty much for the whole of this most recent lockdown, and we've been going through it weekly. I was like, oh my god, it's
we've really
over.
been depending on it for something to keep us going, which I think that's the amazing part about the entertainment industry, is that in times like these we've been able to latch on to something 100%. Like UK Drag Race and keep ourselves pushing. But again, like I said, apparently they've wrapped up filming like a couple of days ago for season 3.
That's really cool. That's really exciting.
I will just point out, like, a lot of the queens are allegedly from London, which makes sense. They want to keep it pretty local because in the UK currently, there's a lot of restrictions between moving from, Scotland or even Ireland
Or
into
even out
England.
of your county. You shouldn't really be leaving your county.
No, of course not. But I think you're allowed to do it for like work reasons, but it makes sense as to why they probably didn't go with any more Scottish queens or anything.
Well, they also probably haven't been able to recruit the same way that they would maybe have sent. I don't know how Drag Race works, but I would imagine
it's a lot of audition
probably have like.
So I'm gonna say maybe it might have been the same process, but difficult to display. Either way, it looks like it'll be a fun season. So I think we'll just overall talk about the fact that we have our winner of this season.
So Lawrence won.
Congratulations to Lawrence Chaney. She did an amazing job. Such a good job. And I think that my initial response, I was just a bit shocked because of how things had been going in Bimini's favour for the second half. Mm-hmm. It really felt like Bimini came back with a vengeance and that she was there to take the crown. There was a very much like a whole narrative
built up by the producers and
judges,
the edit. Like, because we all, like, we weren't in the moment, we don't know. But
no, of course not.
The way that it was presented to us as an audience was very much like Bimini, the underdog, coming up, and the way that we've experienced that before.
Bottom 2 to the finale.
Yeah.
But like, look at her track record. She has won the most out of anyone on the UK Drag Race season 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. She will always have that, plus the fan support, the way that fans have galvanized. Yeah. She really has touched something deep within a lot of us, and it's why this result isn't like a sad piece of news, because in my mind, all I can think about is the fact that if they ever do an international All-Stars season, Bimini Bon Boulash can come back to do another season.
And it's also...
And that's such a joy.
When you look at what came from Drag Race last year...
Yeah.
All 3 of the top 3 are now reality TV staples in the UK. Like,
and
Celebrity
the
First Dates, like, and the Frog Destroyers, but like also like...
Yeah, Cheryl Hole as well. Like
everyone.
I'd say top 6 have been showing back up in British TV for a good year or so now.
They're all like Celebrity Juice, The Circle, all these things. Like, they're getting the gigs, and like I remember I watched an episode of Robin Ramesh, the comedians. Like they have a series where they try stuff, and they tried drags. They tried drag. They tried
drags.
They tried drag.
I love when I try drags.
So like the Vivian and Baga put them in drag, and they went to a drag show with their drag show with Alan Carr, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's really like becoming part of British mainstream media, which is really cool.
Yeah, we spoke about that briefly before, about how the difference I think between the US Drag Race and the UK one is just that these queens definitely become part of our television. Like, we see them in drag on a TV show that has nothing to do with drag whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's the same way, I think the only example that comes to my mind was that I think Sharon in Alaska on the US Drag Race went on like Scared Straight, one of those TV shows, or maybe not Scared Straight, it was like some form of a horror based show where it was nothing about drag. Either way, it's clear that we've not seen the last of Bimini, Tase, Ahura. Like, any of these queens are going to start showing up on TV very soon, I'm sure. And, congratulations to Lawrence. I will say that it was very disheartening to see just the number of people that felt it was their responsibility to go to Lawrence's page and say, like, oh, Bimini was robbed, you didn't deserve to win. Lawrence didn't decide any of this, so why she should be the one to get any form of negativity is beyond me. She did a great job this season, and she's won.
Literally, like, the first thing that I did after I finished watching it this morning was, like, I went on to... Because I don't follow any of the queens on Instagram or anything. I went on to, like, Lawrence's Instagram, and, like, she hasn't posted, really. Yeah. And I'm like, I think it's the
best thing to do.
Yeah, but I just, when you're just like, that's so sad. Like, that's...
She already deleted her account on Twitter for a few days after people were giving her a lot of hate for how she handled the Ellie Diamond situation, which I did think it was a lot, and it was intense from her, the way that she responded, but I still don't think that they're in a pressure cooker, they're in a reality TV series, and that's months ago for them. Like, this has already happened.
It's also,
they've worked through it.
Like, as we've said already in this podcast, like, that's, you could tell that was coming from a place of insecurity.
Yeah.
And, like...
We've all been there.
We've all been there. And also, like, these people then making these comments online and stuff, it's the same. It's insecurity. It's like, hurt people. And
exactly.
It's really sad to see, and it's like, this should have been like and it still is, a big celebratory moment for Lawrence Chaney, and it's exciting to have like a Scottish winner. It's not something that happens very much in the UK.
So we're very happy. There'll never be a point, I think, where we'll be like, oh, there's never been a Scottish winning queen. We have our representation,
and we had
so
two
it'll
in the
just
top.
be great to see. Exactly, and the first time that the Scottish queens have appeared on the show, they made it to the very end.
Yeah,
that's something that can't be taken away from either one of them. And I think just overall, anyone that wants to send hate, like you said, hurt people. There's no reason for it. Lawrence wins the show regardless of what your opinion is on it. You can feel the way that I felt, that I thought Bimini was going to win it. And in some ways, I was a little disappointed when it was first announced, but that's only because of how much
preference.
Yeah, that's only because of how much I felt like I was galvanizing behind Bimini. I felt like she'd really come through and shown in the last moments. But at the same time, that doesn't negate the fact that Lawrence did already show so much at the beginning of the season.
You need to consider what the prize of UK Drag Race is.
Exactly.
It's not money. It's
the TV series.
It's having creating and starring in your own TV series, and
I think Lawrence is better suited for that. Lawrence,
I'm 1,000,000% confident, will make an awesome TV series. And It's not that I don't think Bimini wouldn't, but I do just think Bimini she's a live performer.
Bimini's a lot of things, and
she's a lot of things, but I don't think she's gonna be in any way hurt by not winning Drag Race.
And Bimini herself was quick to be like, she made comments immediately about Team Lawrence. She will always support her because they are sisters, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. These people love and care for each other, and it's been a great ride. It's been one of the strongest seasons of Drag Race that I've seen in a long time.
It's been so entertaining and so necessary.
And I think that it's sad that it's ending, but like, good things come to an end, and that's what the show's done.
It was, I think, when it's airing at the same time as season 13 of the US Drag Race, which we've had discussions about. It's not been paced the best, and it sort of feels quite long. Whereas this is like, you always sort of want that feeling of like, oh, I wish I could get one more episode.
Yeah.
And it's better to leave it at that than to sort of drag something out. But speaking of dragging things out,
I was about to say, do we want to end this up?
This little 20-minute episode that we were gonna do, we fully lied to you. We are liars. Oops, we did it again. Who's surprised? Who's surprised?
Not me.
Thank you so much to everyone who listens to this episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast. If you've made it this far, here's a little other reminder just to hit that like button and subscribe if you feel like it.
We put out new content every week on Fridays, maybe sometimes a Saturday if the upload goes wrong. But Friday, you'll find us here.
So far we've been Fridays. We've been pretty good.
We've been consistent. I'm just putting that disclaimer out for the future.
We have lots of exciting things in the pipelines for the It's Not Always Dark podcast. We're working on getting this to you on all the streaming platforms, hopefully soon, which is very exciting. And perhaps some other types of content. We'll see.
Coming shortly.
We'll hopefully get to be in the same room together soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
But speaking of, let us go and be and live our separate lives. Thank you so much for listening. to this episode of the It's Not Always Dark podcast, and we will see you